I do not have to present our speaker. Everybody knows who Andrea is. She is all over LinkedIn and a bunch and volunteering in a bunch of organizations. So she's going to be our speaker of the day. Her topic is life is a project, manage it well. And then one thing before we do go ahead, get started and pass it off to Andrea. Andrea, please do the honors of today's invocation so we can go ahead.
Thank you, Omar. Like Omar said, our community practice, we start with prayer. We like to give honor and acknowledgement to our source and who keeps us. So Heavenly Father God, we thank you once again for this opportunity to come together as a community of practice, as the Bahamas Agile and Project Management community. We know that you are ordering our steps because everything we do, we can see you working through us and with us. And we see that you are opening up doors for us, Lord. And we thank you for your grace, your mercy, and your favor. We ask that as we proceed with our July virtual meetup, Lord, that you will take over this meetup, that you will be the hands and the feet and the mouth, and that you will give me the words to say that you would want the attendees to hear. Lord, I ask that you would use me as your willing vessel to continue to do your will and to always acknowledge you in everything that I say and do, because I know that is without you that I am not able to accomplish what it is that I've been able to accomplish. So Lord, I thank you for every attendee that is here and those who are on their way, and ask that you would continue to bless us and bless our community, that we'll continue to experience growth and that we'll continue to be your will in whatever it is that we are trying to accomplish, that we'll always acknowledge you. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Well then, everyone, welcome to today's session. Let's go ahead and let's jump into it. Andrea, what journey are you going to take us on today?
I am going to hopefully take you on the journey of how life can be considered a project and how I've been applying project management tools, training, and knowledge to my life to see not only positive outcomes, but actually to realize that with those tools and training, that project management is so relatable to life and everything that we do. And you will be able to experience that once we start the presentation. But I'd firstly like to do a small icebreaker, if you would allow. Mom, I'm being open to you as the host. So if you will allow a small icebreaker, if persons could just put in the chat, if this is your first time joining us and where you're joining us from. And also to answer the question, do you think that life is a project? Or can life be considered a project?
I would say it can be considered as a project, but sometimes it doesn't go quite as planned. So you can have all the best laid plans, and I guess a higher power has got a different plan. So you need to flex.
Yes, I agree. So Rodnia is typing in the chat. She said, yes, it can be considered a project. Plenty planning takes place. Sarah said, yes. One long project with many small projects. So true.
You have two more. Melissa also. Melissa agrees as well. And then we have Ratnia, who also says it can be considered a project.
Okay, great. So now that we have accomplished that and we know that life can be considered a project, I will share my screen and we'll get going with the presentation. So Mark, can you see my screen? All right, great. So Ma didn't give much of an introduction, and I know some of you probably may not have heard about me or know who I am. So let me just pause and tell you a little bit about myself just briefly. I am the founder of the Bahamas Agile and Project Management Community, this great and awesome meetup that you're actually attending at the moment. And I'm also a Agile project manager, an advanced Scrum Master, and professional Kanban trainer. And as we go through the presentation, you will learn a lot more about me. I think you will learn so much more about me than you even expected to learn tonight. So this presentation is entitled Life is a Project, Manage It Well. So you all basically agree with me that life is a project. If you look at the definition of what is a project based on the PMBOK guide, Project Management Body of Knowledge, a project is a temporary endeavor that's undertaken to produce a unique product, service, or result. And if we look at life, life is temporary. Life produces something unique because my life is going to be different from everyone else's life and vice versa. And that's why I believe it can be considered a project, that life can be considered a project based on this definition alone. So a little bit about my backstory. When I was a youth, I became a mother at the age of 16. And at that time, I did not have a plan for my life. And in fact, my life was in chaos. It was in turmoil. And when I got pregnant with my son, I was told that I ruined my life. I will never become anybody. I should have an abortion. You know, everything negative that anyone can possibly hear at that time, I heard it. I was seeking for some positive outlook, some words of encouragement, someone to tell me it's going to be okay. You know, just get through this period of your life. And I didn't find anyone who brought those words of encouragement. So it caused me to go in a mental spiral where I was severely depressed. I became suicidal. I just didn't want to live anymore because I did not know how I was going to make it with so much negativity and so much, basically, I was a wreck. Let me put it like that's the best way I can describe it. I was a total wreck. And my mindset was at a point where I didn't want to be around anymore. But the one thing that kept me going was that I felt as though I had a purpose. I felt as though I had a mission. And when I had my son, I had a reason to live. And when he became 1 year old, we actually attended my mother's funeral. So that spiral just continued. I didn't have my mother in my life anymore to help me learn how to become a mother myself, to teach me how to become a woman, or even, you know, the basic stuff that you would want to learn as a teenager, how to cook, how to clean, how to be able to handle motherhood and womanhood. I didn't have that person in my life anymore. So from he became one, we went to a funeral. And my siblings and I, everyone went in their separate directions. We didn't live together anymore. I had to live on my own at 17 years old with a 1 year old, working full time and trying to take care of an infant. But with all that said, I realized that I couldn't just give up on life. My son became my purpose for living, and I focused on doing the best that I could to make sure that he had a good life. And I had to change my mindset. And like this quote from Alexi Weaver, who wrote a few books about mindset, she says that everything begins from the mind, including change. So if you want to alter your life, you have to start with your mindset. And basically, that's what I had to do. I had to change the way that I thought about myself. I had to take off all of those limiting beliefs that my family members told me about myself, that my friends or so-called friends told me about myself, that my teachers, guidance counselors, I mean, you name it. Everybody had negative limiting beliefs that I started to believe about myself, that I had to transform the way that I saw myself and saw my life and change the way that I thought about my accomplishments. And once I did that, I saw a dramatic change. So the first thing I had to do was realize that my life actually mattered and that I had a purpose and that everything that happened in my life, it happened for a reason. And this quote by Miles Monroe, it really hit me because he said that purpose is when you know and understand what you were born to accomplish, and vision is when you see it in your mind and you begin to imagine it. And the greatest tragedy in life is not death, but a life that doesn't have a purpose. So for me, the minute I found out what my purpose was, and I saw a vision for my life, then that changed my whole thinking, my whole mindset shifted at that moment. And I'm going to show you how, if you implement 3 basic principles, these 3 key principles, that you too can have a shift in the way that you think about not only your accomplishments, but your entire life. The first being defining your goals. If you know what you want to accomplish, then you'll see yourself actually accomplishing it. Once you make that plan and you start to take action. But like anything in life, you can have a goal. You could develop a plan. But if you don't put action behind it, then nothing happens. Now, at any point in this presentation, if you have a question, you can stop me, but I'm just going to go through it and then we can have a section at the end. So the principle number 1 is define your goals. Like I said, without clear goals, it's impossible to manage life effectively. You have to have some goals. And how do you do this? First of all, I start by setting SMART goals. And I'm sure that as project managers, most of you know, or you would know what SMART goals means. So it's specific, measurable, achievable, relatable, and timely. Once those goals fall into those 5 criteria, then you're onto something. I also like to create vision boards. Some persons call them dream boards, and you normally find persons having like dream board parties at the beginning of the year. Normally when persons are setting New Year's resolutions, they normally create these dream boards or vision boards. And basically what it is, where you just take pictures from a magazine, or sometimes you could cut them out or print them from the internet and paste them on this chart paper. And it gives you a picture of what you want to accomplish normally within a year. So a dream board or vision board goes from year to year. And then at the end of the year, you can look at this board and see just how well you did at achieving your goals. Now, a life template plan or life plan template is where you set out longer goals. So some persons have 3-year goals, 5-year goals, 10-year goals, 25-year goals. It all depends on how far in your life you want to plan. But it's always good to have immediate goals that you can accomplish within a few months, and then long-term goals. Now, what's the benefit of defining your goals? You have motivation. You're looking at something that you're saying to yourself, okay, if I can visualize this, then I can accomplish it. And seeing it helps you to accomplish it. And it gives you focus, because every day when you look at your dream board and you say, oh, okay, you know, I said this year is the year I'm going to buy that house. What do you need to achieve? What do you need to put in place to achieve that goal? You'd start taking those actions. And then clarity. It gives you a sense of purpose, that I'm on track and I'm achieving something and my life has meaning. So those are the benefits of defining your goals. Next principle, you have to have a plan. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And that's what, you know, that's a common phrase that project managers normally use. But once you have defined your goals, you need a plan to achieve them. They're not just going to happen because you say you're going to accomplish it. You have to have a plan of action. How can you develop this plan? Some persons use something just as simple as a to-do list. And that to-do list can be something that you write up on a daily basis. Other times, you'd have to break those goals down into smaller tasks. So like I said, if you have a life plan goal that's a year out or 2 years out, maybe you need to break those goals down into smaller tasks that you can accomplish on a daily or even a weekly basis. And what I like to use is productivity system. Now, a productivity system, this is something that can be customized to you, whether you want to use it for your personal or professional use. Now, the productivity system, you have many different techniques in that one productivity system, and you don't have to use them all. You can use whatever works best for you. But one that I like to use is something called GTD, or Get Things Done. And this was created by David Allen. And all it is that you use a combination of techniques, whether you use Kanban. I know Lee doesn't like when I mention Kanban, but hey, Lee, I'm mentioning Kanban. But you can use a Kanban board so that you can see that all of the tasks that you have to do in a particular period, you prioritize them, and then you get them done. And once you see the cards moving in your workflow, then you know that you're accomplishing your goals and your task. Another thing that's used in a productivity system is something called a Pomodoro technique. Now, I don't know if you guys ever saw those kitchen timers that look like a tomato. Well, the Pomodoro technique was actually named after that particular timer that looks like a tomato. And what it is that you would pick a particular task. You would focus on completing only that task and set a timer for about 20 to 25 minutes. Eliminate all distractions. And once your 20 to 25 minutes has expired, you give yourself a short break. After that break, you go back to that task. And after 3 or 4 repetitions, you give yourself a longer break. So that's the Pomodoro technique. Now, what's the benefit of developing a plan? Obviously, you're going to have increased productivity. You're going to be better organized, and you're going to make the most use of your time. Now, I know a lot of us wish that we had more than 86,400 seconds in a day, but that's all we get. So time management is critical if you want to be able to accomplish your goals. Principle number 3, take action. A plan is useless without action. You must take consistent, keyword here, consistent action to achieve your goals. Pablo Picasso says, action is the foundational key to all success. So plan, you could have your goals, you could have your plan, but they are useless unless you take action. How do you take action? Keyword, consistent effort. You have to go at it consistently. You have to practice perseverance. An important key is you have to learn from failure. We all have failures. You know, no one succeeds at first attempt. You have to try and try again. And the more you try, the more you learn. So failure is not the end result. That's just a learning experience. And once you develop that mindset, that it's okay to fail, because every time I fail, I'm learning how to do it better the next time, then you'll keep going on. And the benefits of taking action, you get increased confidence. Once you make that first step, you build up your confidence. And you build up your resiliency when you practice perseverance. Like I said, try and try again. We all fail. There's no shame in failure. There's shame in when you fail and you don't try again and you just give up. And what do you get? Achievement. Once you keep going, you keep trying, you keep persevering, you have resilience, you are definitely going to achieve whatever you're trying to accomplish. So that's the benefit. Increased confidence, resilience, and achievement. So I love this quote by Alexandra Duhamel. She says, take one step in the direction of your dreams and watch the universe perform miracles to help you. And I have seen some miracles in my life. Like I started out with my story from when I was a teenager to where I am now. It's only through miracles that what has happened in my life has transpired. And this slide is just a small preview of what I've been able to accomplish. And I want you to remember, in the beginning, I said, I was told by persons that I would never accomplish anything, that I was going to be a failure, that I ruined my life. But I'm sitting here today and I'm talking to you and to let you know that I am a business owner. I own my own company, Creative Minds Project Development and Consultation. Like I said in the beginning, I'm an Agile project manager. I'm an advanced Scrum Master. I'm a professional Kanban trainer. And I am also the founder of the Bahamas Agile and Project Management Community. And for someone who had the mindset that I would never accomplish anything, to having a slide that has all these certifications on it, all of these accomplishments on it, you know, is a testament that miracles do happen. And when I started my company, that in itself was a challenge, because I thought that it was going to be such a struggle, that I was not going to get any clients. And it hasn't been that much of a struggle, to my surprise, because right now, 80% of my clients are international clients, not even Bahamian clients, international clients. And I've been able to work on projects, building products that are revolutionary, one of a kind. And I feel so fortunate just to have the opportunity to work with so many different teams and be an innovator and be able to think creatively and to have that freedom to innovate. And I just love being self-employed. So just a few of the certifications I have are listed at the bottom. I ran out of space. I probably have 2 more that I didn't get to put there. And my whole concept is that in order to grow, you have to continuously learn. And I'm a continuous learner. And persons would tell me, well, why are you pursuing so many certifications? It's not because I love to see letters behind my name. It's because I love to obtain knowledge. And when you come from hearing can't, like the word can't, C-A-N''T, so many times you realize that once you change your mindset, that word is no longer in your vocabulary. So there's no such thing as can't, as far as I'm concerned. I always tell persons, I may not know how to do something, but I can learn how to do it. So I don't even say, I don't know how to do something. I just said, I will learn how to do it. And it's all about mindset. So these are just a few of the things that I've been able to accomplish that I'm proud of. And when I became a professional Kanban trainer, I'm actually the first professional Kanban trainer in the Bahamas, the first and only. And I'm the only professional Kanban trainer in the entire Caribbean. So as you can see, I'm a very proud Bahamian. I travel with my Bahamian flag. And when I met the owners of ProKanban.org, Daniel Vacanti and Colleen Johnson, and some of the team members, I was very thrilled to know that they wanted to sit down and have a conversation with me about how they can improve their organization and their offerings. And so I actually had a seat at the table. You know, sometimes we say, if you're not given a seat at the table, bring your own table. Well, in this instance, I had a seat at the table and I was able to make a contribution to an international organization that has almost 100 trainers located around the world. And to know that I was the only Bahamian there and that they actually listened to the contributions that I made and started to implement a few of them. But even though I shared my accolades, which I'm proud of, my most precious accomplishment are my children. My son, Andrick, is now 26. He has been off to school studying maritime and aviation, and he's now officer on the Royal Bahamas Defense Force. He is presently in Guyana on an operation, and he is an entrepreneur himself. And I'm very proud of the accomplishments he's made in his life. And my daughter, Victoria, she's 11 years old. She was one of the youngest presenters at the Access Agile Festival that was held last year. And she presented on the fact that I was homeschooling her for 2 years during the pandemic. And she presented on Agile in education and how I taught her Scrum during her homeschooling. She's also an entrepreneur. She started a home-based business. And she has just graduated from primary school, the 6th grade. She was the top of her class. So I'm very proud of the accomplishments that I've been able to make personally, professionally, and also in the lives of my children by being a role model for them and to show them that whatever they put their mind to, they can accomplish. So we've talked about so many things, but I want to share with you some work in progress, what's in the pipeline. I am attending the Nairobi, Kenya, the TMI Africa Conference in Nairobi, Kenya in September. I was asked to participate in this conference, and I will be attending that in September. That's in the works. And then also in October, when I return, I will be offering a live virtual training on applying professional Kanban, October 13th through 15th. There's a link on my LinkedIn page about details for this course. Right now, I'm offering an early bird discount. And to wrap up, at the beginning of this presentation, I talked about my mindset as a teenager and how, you know, all kind of thoughts were going through my mind, and I was not focused on living. I was focused on giving up. And back then, I recall that for me, it was not about thriving. My mindset was about surviving. I was living on my own from 17 with an infant, had to work full time. But I went to school. I decided to go to college. I put myself through college, no scholarships. And I went to school to obtain my bachelor's degree. It took me 10 years. And a friend of mine had to convince me to even apply, because I told her, I said, there's no way I can afford to go to college. I was paying rent, paying light, paying all the bills on my own and taking care of a child. And I just could not see how that was even possible. But she told me, just apply. That's all you have to do. Just apply and see what happens. And I enjoyed going to school so much. And I had a professor who would tell me to not leave my son at home by himself, to bring him to school with me, because she was so concerned about him. And I told her my situation. I said, I can't afford a babysitter. So she said, well, bring him to school. And so my mentality was, I'm going to thrive. I'm going to be the best. I'm going to do the best. I'm going to give my best. And my classmates, they always considered me the teacher's pet. But I don't think I was a teacher's pet. I think that my mindset was I could not afford to fail a class. So I had to give my all into studying, into doing my assignments. And they interpreted it as teacher's pet, but I was just like, you know, I just can't afford to fail. So my mentality was I had to thrive. I had to thrive. I had to do better. I had to be better. I had to become better. So my mission in life, I love this quote by Maya Angelou, because she reminds me that, you know, my mission in life was back then was to survive. It was about survival, but now it's about thriving. And I'm doing it with passion, compassion, some humor, and hopefully some style. So that brings us to the end of my presentation. My favorite quote that I use as my foundation is, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. When you think about my journey, what I had to overcome to get to the point where I am, I don't take it lightly. I think it's a testimony. And, you know, it took me a long time to be able to share my story, because whenever I start to think about what I went through, I become very emotional. But I know that it's an important story to share, and that it can bring inspiration and motivation to someone else who may think that they're going through something that's insurmountable, to know that there is light at the end of the tunnel, and that you can thrive if you can just change the way you think about life and change the way you think about yourself. Allow yourself to put on the limiting beliefs that are for you, not what people think about you and what you can accomplish, because only you can determine what you can accomplish. And I know that my knowledge, my skills, and my training as not only a project manager, but also as a Scrum Master and a Kanban trainer has helped me to realize that there are so many opportunities and so many skill sets that can help us with our life journey if we would just take the time to learn them and apply them, and we will see the outcome. So I thank you so much, and I welcome any questions you may have. This is a collage of my family, my husband, my children, and my even high school graduation photo is on here. I didn't even realize I was there. But yes, so this is just a collage of some of my memories from happier times in my life. And I will open up the floor for any questions you may have. And thank you for being such an attentive audience.
Hello?
Hi.
Hi, yes, Rodney here. I just wanted to confirm or find out, you do training, project management training, or is it just consulting work that you do?
Well, I haven't started project management training as yet. I'm actually working with a course creator to develop content to teach the CAPM, which I'm hoping to start in September.
Okay. Okay, so I would be interested in something if you get that sorted out already. So just remember that name, because you'll get it. Okay.
Will do. Thank you too.
You're welcome.
Daynette?
Yes, I would like to have the training of Kanban. How can I start with you?
Okay, well, I have, Omar will put my LinkedIn linked in the chat, and you can message me on LinkedIn and I will send you the link for the next Kanban training, which is in October. And I'm also offering one-on-one training if you don't want to do a public class. And also I'm offering private classes. So if you have an organization that wants to have your team members trained in Kanban, I can also offer private training. So you don't have to wait on my October class, which is a public class. There's also a private class option and one-on-one training.
Yeah, I don't have any organization. I just did my Scrum Master. I just got my Scrum Master certification. And before I start applying for a job, I want to be prepared on the basic tools. And that's why, yes, I would like to take it as soon as possible.
Okay.
So what do you also recommend for me? Because I'm new on this arena, but I consider myself to be a really good candidate, like to lead out and work in this type of career, which I'm changing to this career. What do you recommend me to do besides reorganizing my CV and doing webinar related to this certification? What do you recommend me to do before I start, submitting my CV?
Okay, do you mean for certified Scrum Master?
Yes, to apply as a Scrum Master, yeah.
Okay, well, actually, we have a presenter who's coming up. I think she's presenting next month. And her topic is how to be a Scrum Master without being... Omar, what's the topic again?
Have an experience, yes. Yeah. That's the 23rd, right? Yeah. Yes, so I just enrolled on that, yeah.
Yes, Katrina is going to be presenting on how to get experience as a Scrum Master without being a Scrum Master, because we come across a lot of persons who have the Scrum Master certification, but they don't necessarily have the experience to get positions. Yeah, to get positions. So her presentation covers that in a lot of detail, and she also shares her slide deck and other resources. But one of the things that I did when I first became a Scrum Master was I volunteered with an organization that was building a mobile app. And so I got experience from volunteering in that capacity.
For how long did you volunteer?
I think it took us about a year to build a mobile app, but it was like meeting just once a week for like an hour or two. So it wasn't really labor intensive, and you can do it during your spare time.
Okay. So when you were volunteering, you just attend to meetings. You were not like shadowing the person who was leading out the Scrum Master.
No, we took time.
Shadowing a Scrum Master, that's a different thing. Not many companies or not many communities of practice offer that. So if you want to get more within the Scrum Master space, we do recommend, there are some couple of books that I can recommend that you should read that help you and give you some insight of what you could run into. We do have a session next month, but there are a couple of videos that actually on YouTube that will cover what you would need to do and take into account for somebody who's actually not been a Scrum Master, not been in the software development side, and what you would need to learn and take into account. But there are certain things that require some effort on that, and dependent on your background, the organization of your CV needs to really talk to what the values of Scrum are and how you can apply those to that position.
Okay, well, thank you very much for both of you.
Okay. I do see we have Juliana with a question. Go ahead, Juliana.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I want to say thank you so much, Andrea, for sharing your story. It is very inspiring. And one of the questions I had for you, you said that it took you about 10 years to finish your bachelor degree.
Yes.
In between that time, what did you do? What was it that you did to help you achieve your goal or even your accolades that you have now?
Okay, that's a very good question, Juliana, because my Agile journey actually began in 2020. So just recently. So all of those certifications you saw me show you on that slide, the majority of them, besides the CAPM, which I got in 2017, was accomplished from 2020 forward. So it took me 10 years to get my bachelor's degree, but it took me less than 3 years to get like 13 certifications.
Wow. Wow, that's really good. So in that process, were you, I guess, within the 10 years, did you have a job as well? Or
Yes, I worked full time and I went to school part time, and I had side hustles. I had little jobs on the side of the full-time job in the school. So I would help students with their papers. That gave me some income. I was baking. I was selling CDs and DVDs from a suitcase. I was trying to do everything just to survive. So
nice. So what was your mindset? I mean, obviously never give up, but even on days when you find it hard to continue, what did you tell yourself in order just to keep going?
Well, I would always tell myself, at the hardest times when food was a challenge, I would tell myself nobody starved from not eating in one day. So I went through that period of I don't have, so I know what it is not to have a meal. And I would always tell myself, look forward to tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be a better day. Just pass this day, get past this day, just get past this day. And I keep telling myself that, just get past this next day. And that's how I kept going on. It's like, just look forward to the next day.
That's amazing. Very commendable of you.
Thank you. So James, you have a question? And then we're going to get to Angel.
Yes. Can you hear me, first of all?
Yes.
All right. Wonderful. Wonderful. I really appreciate your story and your transparency, your openness. My question is simply this. With all that you have faced, moving from that space of you're not a Scrum Master, you're not having a degree, to moving to that space, who are the key people that you would say are key persons that kind of helped you in there? I guess my second part is, why did you choose Scrum in the first place?
Well, I think Scrum chose me. I know that sounds weird, but when I entered the Agile space, it was just because I was bored. And I was actually watching The Walking Dead for a long time when the pandemic first started, and everyone went home and it was on lockdown. And I got into that Meetup binge, and The Walking Dead was my binge thing until I decided that this was not helping me. And I don't think a zombie apocalypse is ever going to happen. So I'm not learning anything from this. So I applied to take my PMP. And I needed to study for that. And so I started studying for my PMP, which I took in August of 2020. And then because I had the PMP, I said, okay, well, let me just do the Project Plus. Since I already studied for the PMP, I know the Project Plus was not going to be that hard. And then at the end of the year, I was volunteering with the Meetup group in South Florida, like I said, with developing the mobile app. And I said, okay, well, this seems interesting. I love working as a Scrum Master doing this app. Let me just get certified as a Scrum Master. So I took the CSM in December of 2020. And it just started, my love for Agile just kind of flourished from then.
Wow, that's awesome. So it's a kind of a combination of people, and I'm sure you've had all the questions about how do you get that experience, but it sounds like kind of the right place, right time, using all the tools that you had already.
Yes.
How long were you a PMP before going into the Agile environment?
Well, I had my CAPM since 2017. I was working as a project manager, but not with that title. But I was doing project management work like a lot of us. We do the work, but we don't have the title. And I applied for my PMP and got my application accepted. And then I decided to really focus and study for it. So I traveled to Georgia in 2020, thinking that it was just going to be a quick trip and I was going to be back home. But then ended up getting stuck in Georgia for 6 months, locked out of the country when the lockdown happened. And so I took my PMP there. Yeah, it's like a story. But yeah, I took my PMP in Georgia. And then I just didn't have anything to do. I was stuck there for a while. And so I started attending meetups and volunteering because I had the time. And when I got involved with the South Florida Agile Association and they introduced me to Scrum, I just took it from there. And then I got introduced to Kanban at the same time from just volunteering.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for answering my questions. I'll yield my time to someone else.
All right, Angel, you're next.
Hi, just want to thank you, Andrea. That's very inspiring presentation. The 2 questions. Will you be sharing your slide deck?
I can, but it's kind of personal, so I may have to think about that one.
Well, I'm interested in some of the quotes and some of the sources, so that's what I'm looking at.
Okay.
And then the other part is, what inspired you to start your own company, and what is the biggest lessons that you learned from starting your own company?
Okay, well, thanks for that question, Angel. What I'll do with the slide deck, instead of sharing my slide deck, I will put it into a 1-pager, the quotes and the principles, and I'll share that through our Meetup channel.
Okay.
And as far as starting my own company, that was inspired by God, because I worked in corporate Bahamas for 21 years. I worked for a company, a private electrical company, and I was basically the owner's right hand. And I watched him experience so much growth from a startup into, accumulating wealth and assets and all these different things. And he was doing it basically off of my back. And I just felt, led that, hey, if I can help someone to achieve all of these things, why can't I do it for myself? So the pandemic kind of was like that opportunity that, allowed me to see that, okay, he took a break from operations, everything closed down, and he wanted to fire some persons like every other company was firing persons because they didn't know when things were going to get back to normal, and everything was shutting down. So the projects weren't happening. Everything was at a standstill. And because I was in senior management, instead of him firing 6 persons from the staff, I decided that I was going to just leave and probably go for a short period of time and come back when things picked up. But then, the Lord said, it's time for you to start your own business. So I got going with my own business and just haven't looked back. So now he's a client of mine.
Oh, how fortunate! How about a blessing? It's amazing how things turn out, and God puts you in the right place.
And Melissa?
This question could be for Andrea or Omar, whoever has an answer for me, possibly. Thank you so much for putting this together, and it was really inspiring to hear your story. I am a project manager, but I'm more new to the Agile side of it. And I don't know if you have an answer for me, but my goal is to be a technical program manager in the near future. So I'm trying to grow my skill set on that side. But I sometimes hear mixed answers or advice, and I just want to get another opinion maybe any suggested like technical skills or things I should be working toward. I am a certified Scrum Master too. I'm trying to familiarize myself more with using data analytics on the job, something that, and I'm not sure how much experience you have with like specifically software developers or how many projects you've worked on in tech, but I hear both things, like you should be familiar with code, you should know how to code. Some people expect you to be an active like code contributor, and then some people say you're not a developer, you shouldn't be coding. So with that specifically, that's like a big undertaking to learn how to code and like actually be good at it. And I want to be sure about what's like the best consensus before I actually dedicate my time to that.
Well, I know that's an Omar question. So Omar, that's your question.
To be honest, there's not a straight answer to it. The problem specifically with most companies, even in the Agile space, you're going to learn that many companies have different definitions for what that specific role is. So what I could recommend is look at companies that you would like to join and see what they're requesting a technical program manager is. Because when you are thinking of a program manager, you're leaving the product space, you're leaving the project space, and you're dealing and setting up specific programs, and they have different expectations of what you're going to do for that role. If you're technical, that helps a lot. Why? Because within product or within project, and pardon my French, you can call bullshit when you see it. Sometimes technical tends to get very deep, and you know when to stop things and say this doesn't have anything to do with this conversation. So being technical, not a problem. But again, it depends on the company. A lot of companies expect you to be multi-role. So if you're coding, you might be able to code. Although if you're touching code, I don't know what you're doing as a program manager. I would actually doubt what your value there is. So it really depends on the focus of the company. This is something that I would offer myself to help you offline so that we can look at this and really know your skill set and your strengths on it, because just because you have your Scrum Master doesn't mean, or anything in the product space, doesn't mean that you can't be a program manager. I've seen project managers who've transitioned to program managers, but then again, their responsibilities tend to change. They're not managing specific projects that maybe bring revenue within. It's more projects within the company that will maybe work with strategic planning, will work with technical programs within the company. So again, it's something that needs work. And again, look for companies that you would say you would love to work for and look at what they're looking for.
Yeah, I get mixed answers. I do see like learn SQL a lot, which I already have on my list that I'm planning to familiarize myself with, because that seems to be a popular skill in the companies that I'm looking at. And when you take, the Scrum course that I took, my teacher was amazing, but he made it clear that like there's obviously a very specific way to be true to Scrum, and a lot of tech companies kind of mix up the terminology, or they don't use like Scrum as it should be. So I don't want to be specifically a Scrum Master, but I think because a lot of companies incorporate it to some extent, at least in the tech space, I wanted to be more familiar with it. So
right now, with you knowing the space and being familiar with what, if you're using Scrum, with what a sprint is, what a sprint backlog is, what a backlog is, what are the activities and the main roles, you're good. As long as you understand that and you know how everything works, it's not a problem. The skill sets that you bring to the table can only benefit you. If you know coding, perfect. If you know database, which is for SQL, that's perfect as well. Anything technical that you bring to the floor helps you and your teams even better. So there is no, again, it depends on the focus. I could tell you right now, I'm searching for jobs because I got laid off recently. And you would be surprised at what you understand a product owner is. And then you see product manager roles who are actually requesting same role, same responsibilities for a product owner. So it depends on the company and how they look at it. As for Agile being adulterated, oh, you're going to see that everywhere. Whether it's Scrum at scale, safe, less, everybody has their different flavors to what that methodology is. But that is something that people tend to forget. Mm-hmm. People hear this, the Spotify method, and they want to do that. And that's incorrect. The whole thing with the Spotify method is that's what worked for Spotify. Each company needs to find what works for them.
Yeah.
So that's something that you're going to see all over.
Well, thank you for your advice. And that's why I'm like trying to connect and get as many answers as possible, because literally every single job asks for something different or like views it differently. So that's why it can be tricky.
Yeah. No problem.
Angel, did you have another question, or you just didn't put your hand back down?
Okay. Andrea, there is another question from Jody that says, I have my CSM. What would you recommend as my next steps? My organization is starting their Agile journey.
Organization that is just starting their Agile journey. That's such a tricky question, because I work with an organization or a client now that wants to start an Agile journey, but you would find that if the leadership doesn't have buy-in for Agile implementation, they just take the labels, and you're like, how you could stick any label on a banana, but it doesn't have to be Chiquita. They want the labels, but they don't want to do the work, because they feel as though Agile, the shift to doing something in an Agile way is different from the way that they're used to working. And Agile ways of working, even though I think it's better, not everyone will think it's better. And people don't necessarily like change. So I will say, like Omar would always tell me, try to show your team why you want to implement something. Like, what's the benefit of implementing this versus trying to teach them the terminology, because they're going to get lost in the words, but the actions show them the benefits of it. And that normally helps with a successful implementation and transformation. Omar, you want to add to that? Or you just want to nod along?
No. Something that when an organization is actually starting an agile transformation, if you've had experience with an agile, you're going to see everything that they're doing wrong. Yeah. And you're gonna quickly identify it. Your job, dependent on your role, and this is if you really want that transformation to be successful and there isn't an agile coach, be the voice that speaks up and say, hey, we're doing this wrong and this is why. Probably a lot of people are gonna look at you and gonna say, oh, what do you know? Or this isn't your it might not be your concentration, it might not be your role to do so, but just speak up.
Yeah. And that's hard.
Many transformations, if not done correctly, will delay work being delivered a lot further. And dependent on certain leadership positions, context switching can take companies to just go ahead and disappear, meaning that they will go under, there will be hostile takeovers, or that simply you might have had a great product, but due to expenses, you're just going to run out of money. So speak up and try to help out when you do this, just bring the evidence so that they understand that you want to help and that you have the evidence to support that. Yeah. If there isn't an Agile coach there, and they're just going to say we're going to do Scrum because we're going to do Scrum, that is the first red flag right there.
Yeah. Angel's hand is back up and she's on camera, so I think she has another question.
Just wanted to add something, because I've been in some of the organizations where they just do Scrum in name only. And going back to figuring out, learning, part of the politics is just learning why and what their intent is by saying they're doing Scrum. That's also can be a red flag. The other thing, I think you alluded to also, Omar, is you can sort of do what people call stealth Scrum. You don't call it Scrum, but you start introducing some of the ideas and the principles and getting people kind of warmed up to the idea of Scrum actions without actually calling them Scrum actions.
Yeah, well, I've experienced that in my work, because when I started with a client, they love 2-hour meetings. And I was just like grinding my teeth and like, what's with these 2-hour meetings? You know, why do we need 2 hours to have a meeting? Like, when am I actually going to get work done? And I got them down to 15-minute meetings. And now they love it. And they're like, we never knew we could be so productive with just a 15-minute meeting. But it works. So when they see the benefit of it, and they see that, okay, this is saving us time and money, because we don't have to have 10 people at this meeting when we only need 2 people at this meeting. So they now seeing that, you know, you cut down on who needs to be at these meetings, you cut down the time of the meetings, you cut down how often you have these meetings, and it really saves a lot of time and money, and it makes you realize productivity. You can actually see productivity by using your tools, and that's why we have tools. Why do you have to see me in a meeting if you can see me working through the tool? Like, you know, I never knew how to use Asana, but I've learned how to use Asana. When I started with a client, they were using Asana, and I said, I don't even know what Asana is. And I took 2 months and I taught myself how to use Asana. So now when I have to onboard new team members, who does the training? I do the training. So I'm training persons how to use a tool that, you know, just a year ago, I didn't even know existed. But, you know, learn tools, use your tools, and try to implement as much as you can to show your team members the benefits of implementing Scrum and Agile ways of working. And they will love it because I love it. I mean, they won't love it because I love it, but they will love it. Hi, Jay. You have a question?
Just kind of wanted to extend on that idea. I've had a lot of success by implementing Scrum, not as the cohesive full Scrum, but saying, okay, what's the biggest problem we can fix on this team? What's the difficulty? Oh, hey, I've got a solution for that. We're going to go ahead and set up a Kanban board. So as Andrea said, hey, you can see what I'm working on. So that's just a start. Oh, you know, our meetings are going too long. Okay, let's go ahead and do some time boxing. And the next thing you know, you're into a backlog refinement meeting, you're into a sprint planning meeting, et cetera, et cetera. So as opposed to change by revolution, change by evolution, you know, go slow and use those tools specifically to fix a specific problem. And people get really excited because you've made their lives better. So.
Yes, I've witnessed that. I've witnessed where when I came on to work with this client, I had a team member who was afraid of using Asana because she was not trained how to use Asana. And because she wasn't formally trained, she was afraid of letting the owners see that she had deficiencies. And I said, no, you're going to use Asana because we need to know what you're doing. She's working with the fundraising portion of the project. And I like, we need to know how this money coming in and when. So we need you to be in Asana. So I took the time and I trained her, and now she loves Asana. She can see her work plans. She can see the workflow. We have interns working with her. She has a work plan for the interns, and she has the interns pulling work. And I'm like, they're using Kanban. And I taught them that. And I feel so proud about it because I can see them pulling the work, and they're putting it into the different stages of the Kanban board. And it just shows you how much more productive you can be when you can visualize things. So I know we have another half an hour in our meeting. My presentation wasn't meant to be long, but I think we are at that point where we can take a quick photo before a person start to fall off, because I had such a good time presenting tonight. And I must say this, even though we founded this community of practice for over 2 years, last month was our 2-year anniversary. This is my first time presenting virtually. I did an in-person presentation last year in November, and we plan to do another in-person this year, November. And we would love to have your feedback. We stopped using our feedback form because we weren't getting a lot of persons responding to it. But you can send us feedback in any way you can, through the Meetup page, on our LinkedIn profile. Some persons private message me on LinkedIn and send me little notes and say, Andrea, I thought the presentation was so good. I thought the presenter was so well, and send me some more recommendations. Omar and I, we always give up ourselves and say, well, we'll help whatever questions you have offline. It doesn't have to be we answer your question at this meetup. You can connect with us and keep the conversation going. If you're interested in training, our LinkedIn profile is there with all of the training information. We also have the Meetup page where you can message us directly through Meetup and send us feedback. We'd love to know what you think about our community, how we can make it better. Also, we always seeking speakers. So if you're somebody who presents at different meetups or different organizations, you can let us know that you would like to be a presenter at our meetup. Our 2023 calendar is full, if you can believe it, but we're now looking for speakers for our 2024 monthly meetups. So if you can quickly turn on your cameras, Omar will take a quick snapshot. And we're going to give you back some of your time tonight. So we normally end at 7:30, but we can leave a bit early if there's no more questions.
Okay, thanks everyone for coming on. And 1, 2, and 3. There we go.
Omar is such a pro at taking pictures because he only takes one shot. So I think he knows it's good. It's a good one shot. Melissa, you have another question?
Yeah, one last one. Do you have any advice at all on taking the exam for the PMP? Because I've heard it's a hard exam, and I just want to know more specifics.
Well,
you're lucky Lee just got off the. You're lucky Lee jumped off this call.
I was just gonna say we had one of the founders of the PMP credential on this call, Lee Lambert. So I mean, it's a tough exam to pass, but I would say read the PMBOK guides. I think they're on the 7th edition now. So read it over and don't just rely on that, because even PMI would tell you that's not the only resource they use to create that exam, that you have to diversify your study materials. What I find helpful for me is that I go to like the PMI website or Scrum Alliance website, and I just watch videos, read articles, and whatever I have a question on, I will seek someone on LinkedIn for advice about whatever that topic is that I'm puzzled by. And you have a lot of tools at your disposal. Back in the day when we had to take exams, we only had books. Now we have videos, we have, webinars, we have LinkedIn to reach out to persons. They have a lot of persons who do like free study sessions. PMI has a lot of chapters that offer study groups for like $15. When I was doing my PMI ACP, I joined the PMI Chicagoland study group chapter. That was $15 for a few weeks, and they had a facilitator. So you have a lot of benefits just by being a PMI member. You have a library of resources at your disposal, and affordable resources if you have to pay for it, because a lot of them are free. But if you have to pay, they have a lot of resources available.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Test dumps. That's one of the best. Actually, it's one of the ways that helps to just study so that you can see what type of questions you're going to be seeing at that test.
And Jody is giving you a thumbs up.
It's the tests sucks. I mean, I don't have my PMP. I don't think I will get my PMP, but I've heard a lot of people who do have, and even Lee would tell you he doesn't feel that the test is hard enough. And he said that a couple of months ago. He's like, it has to be harder.
Yes.
It's like, it's the golden standard. He will say that it's the PMP and everything else is secondary. So you need to really dedicate yourself to study pretty much like Andrea's topic. If you want to go full project management, or if you want to do Scrum or Kanban, you really have to set your plan of attack and how you're going to dedicate what time to really just focus on studying for the test. And like Andrea said, don't rely just on the PMBOK, because for some dumb reason, they're going to give you a guide that it's technically not the best thing to use to study. So and
it's not the easiest book to read either. It's not very digestible. So you have to
talk about dry reading. That's definitely it.
So it's like you diversify what you study and how you study, but make sure you set your goal, have your exam date in mind, make a plan, and take action. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and in my Scrum class, I met someone that had just taken it last month and passed, and he mentioned something interesting, that the materials like mostly Agile now, and it was just like a small section on waterfall PMing.
Yes, it is, because PMI has transitioned to Agile. It's not, what they've done is they've taken out construction and traditional project management out of the PMP, and they've put it in a specialized category. So if you go to PMI website right now, you'll see that the construction field has its own set of certifications. So the way that the traditional projects are running is not the waterfall way anymore. Everything seems to be adopting Agile. So PMI has realized that, and they have now adopted Agile.
So it would complement my resume or skill set if I am trying to go into the tech space, right?
If you're going to the tech
Agile.
Okay, but what specifically, what position would you be looking for? Would it be Scrum Master? Would it be Product Owner? Would it be Product Manager? What is it that you're looking for? Because your technical skills are one thing, but the role that you're looking for, that in itself encompasses another set of skills that are pretty much sometimes not even covered by the Scrum Master or the Product Owner courses.
Well, I would like to be a program manager with like a team of developers. So where does that put me?
Okay, that sounds more like a product owner, not a program manager. A program manager has a much larger scope than what a product owner or a product manager has. Now, if you want to work with
Go ahead.
Sorry. No, go ahead.
No, I was just like, can you elaborate on what you would mean by a program manager is like looking over a larger scope?
The thing is that a program manager, dependent on the program that they're focusing on, will affect multiple probably departments or even teams. Now, what you're stating sounds more like you're working with one or two teams. So that's more of a product owner.
Then I misspoke. I know that it is cross-functional, that you work with different departments. I just want to work with like on a team where it is a lot of different departments, I know, but we're creating like a product or like software development product.
Okay. When you hear cross-functional, they're actually referring to the team itself. And that the team has a elaborate set of skills that will allow them to work together and actually be able to deliver something without or at least with the least amount of external input possible, so that they can do it.
Ask these questions.
No.
To give you an example, you want a team that's probably full stack. that they can do front-end development, back-end development, even database development. And that's what they mean by cross-functional. You want somebody to be doing QA. And also that means that if there isn't any new work in the sprint, that a developer can go ahead and help a QA tester to get things done and to speed up the testing, to deliver, to complete that delivery for that sprint. So cross-functional, when you hear the word cross-functional, they're specifically talking about the team. Now, granted, that team will get input from external stakeholders, meaning either your C-level or your top, your bigwigs, or you're even getting input from people like your customers, which is then your product means that it's product-led, and that is data that you're using as input to define what your roadmap is and where you're going to be moving towards.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
Well, Melissa, another thing, you're talking about the PMP. PMI also have a certification called the PFMP, which is specifically for portfolio management professional. So I dropped in the chat the link for PMI's certifications, and you could look up that one. Is the PFMP, and that will have the criteria of what you need to have in order to sit that exam.
For most companies, depending on what you're going to be focused on, if you're interested in going the PMI route, it would be the PMI ACP, which is the Agile Certified Practitioner. Those are mostly what most companies are looking for. The other certifications that they're going to be asking for, if you're going to go the product owner side, it's a CSPO, which is the Certified Product Owner from Scrum Alliance, or the POPM from SAFe, which is the Scaled Agile Framework. Those are the main certifications. Rarely, I would say, I've probably maybe seen one or two that have asked for the Professional Product Owner from Scrum.org. But normally, if they ask for that, there's going to be those three. And dependent on the hiring manager, they don't even care if you have certifications. They say that is secondary to them. They will focus more on that you can answer the key questions that determine and prove that you have the knowledge to take that team and make it successful. And that will be both for a Scrum Master role and for a product owner role. The Scrum, you have the piece of paper, cool. We all do. But the thing is that, can you prove that you have the skills necessary? And that is what hiring managers are really looking at. We had a session, I think it was 2 weeks ago, and we had a hiring manager who said that, I don't care if you have the certification, because they're easy to get. There's no challenge in getting them specifically for Agile.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah,
so that is something you need to take into account.
Yeah, it comes more from experience. I know that a lot of people that they're going into the tech industry or like trying to break in, they fall short on the technical side and like actually knowing how to go about very specific situations. Yeah.
For a Scrum Master role, unless they have a specific need, like you're going to be on a data team or a analytics team that you need to know some of the technologies they use, you need to at least have a general understanding, and that would help you. But then my suggestion would be, once you're in that team, learn everything you can. Get with your QA. They're the best ones who can bring you up to speed and explain every single detail so that you can learn more about that product and how it works, or what their product is. Because remember that a product could be a product, something physical or something digital, and it could be a service as well.
Well, thank you for that question, Melissa. And like Omar said, he offered himself to speak with you in more detail offline if you so desire to reach out. And the same for myself. I think he dropped our LinkedIn profiles in the chat. And he will also be dropping the Scrum Education Unit link, because from attending this meetup, you are qualified to self-report 1 PDU to PMI, and also to use the SEU link that he's going to drop into the chat to get your one Scrum education unit that is applied to your Scrum Alliance account. And if we don't have any other questions, once Omar drops that link, we can say our goodbyes until we meet again, and make sure to sign up for our September meetup. No, that's not September. That's August meetup. I'm pushing too far ahead. Our August meetup with Katrina, where she's going to be talking about how to get experience as a Scrum Master. And that's a very informative presentation that if you want to break into the Scrum Master field, she shares a lot of resources. Yes, Danette, you have a question?
Yes. Could you please throw again the link? I took a picture, but it came out blurry.
Which link is that?
The link that Omar just sent.
For Scrum Alliance?
Uh-huh.
I could post it again.
Thank you.
There you go.
Hold on a second.
Andrea, before we let go, I did see a question that Jody asked about what the difference is between SAFe framework and versus Agile. And
I think Jay answered that. I don't know. Jay looked like he was helping us in the chat. So what do you think about Jay's response?
He did. The thing is that, yes, a lot of people see it like waterfall, but it is not a SAFe versus Agile type of thing. Yeah. If you look at Agile, some people can consider this under the Agile umbrella. It's one of the flavors of Scrum, if you will.
That's at scale.
So the problem with SAFe is that it adds a lot of. It considers and adds a lot to what the Scrum framework is. So it's not something as basic as the Scrum guide, which is just give you the bare bones of what you need and go and discover what for yourself and build upon that. SAFe actually considers a lot more, and it's a lot bigger of their grasp of what they want to do. They just don't consider the teams. They consider what would be the scaling of it and how you work with multiple teams, what they call ART, which is Agile release trains. They consider the business side of things. They consider how you're actually going to be looking at everything, just not only from the team level, but even up to the organization.
Yeah.
Now, yes, I do agree that some people say it's like waterfall, and it is, because if you look at a PI, that's pretty much what you're doing. A PI is from 10 to 10. It's called a program increment. It's from 10 to 12 weeks. And what you're going to do in that 2 to 3 day session is plan your next 3 months of work. So in a way, it is waterfall-ish with some Scrum in it. And they also do consider Kanban, but depending on the org, you might not even look at it.
Yeah. Well, I'm smiling because I got my SAFe 6 Agilist certification. They just renewed it last month. So I had to do the training for SAFe. So I know exactly what Omar is talking about. And it does feel a bit waterfall-ish with a lot of restrictions. So it's not like just basic Scrum. It's Scrum with bars. Like you can't do what you want to do. It has restrictions, and it has to fall within the SAFe framework. So it's a bit restrictive.
Have you guys worked with less or SAS then versus SAFe?
I dealt with less. Personally, I like less. I've heard a lot of people knock on it. I don't mind it. Again, it depends. The approach with less, and that's the funny part, they're expecting you to really go big bang approach in the sense that you do your own teams, and start from scratch and then go scaling. So right. It's not a bad approach. I did like it. Unfortunately, wasn't able to continue with the idea, but I preferred it above above SAFe.
Yeah, I've only used SAFe, and there's just so much overhead to it. It's so plan and predict. The organization doesn't really change with SAFe, right? The business functions like a business. It plans and predicts. It creates a waterfall method. So you're not really getting that agility from the organization. It almost locks them out of that change mindset to, so they can say that they're agile without actually being agile because they're still in planning meetings and all that kind of stuff. And then, the Scrum teams, for the most part, are just assumed to be high-functioning Scrum teams, but SAFe doesn't really talk about that. So that's somebody else's problem, not SAFe's problem. I see some problems with it, was kind of my take on it, so.
Yeah, well, I like lean. I like to follow the lean concept with everything because, that's what they apply with Kanban and, just eliminating waste and everything that you do. So you waste time, you waste resources, you waste money. So if you focus on eliminating the waste and focus on delivering outcomes and value, then your projects will run better. But we have so much wastage. I mean, it's ridiculous. We just had a project that they made public in the newspaper. We were renovating the government house where the Governor General lives. And the project was estimated to cost $9.9 million. And they revealed that the project doubled. The project cost was actually double what they had estimated. And I'm like, how is this possible? Like, who did these projections? Like, it's like, what happened? But then what it does is that it brings so much doubt into not only the project managers, but also in everyone who's affiliated with that project, all of the stakeholders, because that there has to be some kind of corruption involved. How can you have a $9.9 million project that at the end of the day is costing the country, because the taxpayers pay for the renovations, it's costing you almost $20 million. It's like, and there's no check and balance. So why are we living in societies where we have projects that are allowed to have these overruns and no checks? Like, at what point did you realize this was double the cost? So it happens. So, Ma.
Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us this evening. Like Andrea said, we have a session next month that is with Katrina Coker, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
She has deemed herself the Scrum Mother. So if you want to learn what it is to be a Scrum Master without having the experience, then please join us there. Like Andrea said, please, if there's something you didn't like, if there's something you would like to see us change, if there's something you would like to even do yourself within these sessions, please feel free to reach out. You can quickly get us on LinkedIn. If you want to have a private session, I will give you my number and you can call me up and we can talk about it. But thank you for joining us. We hope to see you in our next session. And thank you for coming. Have a great evening and have a great weekend.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks all.